Acolyte, the newest Star Wars project, has wrapped up, and the life of this show has not been great. Week by week, it's been slammed on the internet, and just like other Disney Star Wars projects, it seems to divide the franchise's fan base more and more. Today, I want to rank all of the Star Wars projects from A New Hope to The Acolyte, and before we get into it, let me know your ranking of all these projects in the comments down below, because I feel like everyone has unique thoughts on this really long-running franchise. And the series we have on screen today are bad, meh, good, great, and best of the best. And there are just a few projects I haven't seen: Clone Wars, Rebels, Resistance, Bad Batch, and Ahsoka. But starting it off, we have Obi Wan Kenobi. This is going in meh. This is the CEO of a show that has so much hype and so much excitement going in, because it's literally Obi Wan Kenobi returning with Darth Vader as the main villain of a series, and then it just completely falls flat. Every storyline in this show just really didn't even need to be explored. Ewan McGregor is good. Hayden Christensen is good. But I feel like other than the two leads, nothing else really happens in this show that I really cared about at all. And then we have the Book of Boba Fett. This one, honestly, is going to go at the top of bad. I used to put this in meh, but the more I sit with it, Book of Boba Fett is not only completely unnecessary, but it also completely ruined The Mandalorian Season 3, which overall tanked the quality of The Mandalorian as well. So not only is the Book of Boba Fett a bad show, but it went ahead and did collateral damage to one of the best series that Star Wars has ever come out with. It's Mandalorian Season 2.5, and not in a good way. This show, I think this is where we really started the downfall of the Disney Plus series from Star Wars. I mean, it's cooked. And then we have Star Wars Visions. Now, this is just going to be Season 1, because I haven't seen all of Season 2 yet. I'm going to put this at good. I think Season 1 at least has a lot of great and interesting concepts. I watched all of them pretty much back to back, and I enjoyed every single one of them. There's a lot of great different art styles, and overall, I think it's episode 1 of Season 1 of Visions is probably one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars content in general. And then we have Rise of the Skywalker. This one's going in bad. Honestly, above Boba Fett, though. And the only reason I say above Boba Fett is because I think Kylo Ren is one of Star Wars' most interesting villains. So a lot of the story doesn't work at all whatsoever. And story-wise, it's one of the worst Star Wars projects. But visually, it's undeniable that this movie looks amazing. And again, I know people hate it, and I'm trying to cut it some slack because I think there are very slight redeeming qualities. And then we have The Mandalorian, which is really, really tough for me. Now, I'm going to go at the top of meh. Now, this might sound crazy, but Season 1 was probably best of the best. Season 2 was best of the best / top of great. Season 3 is below bad. The Mandalorian Season 3 is one of the biggest downgrades in cinema history, in my opinion. Season 3 just pissed me off so much, and obviously a big part of that is because of the Book of Boba Fett and where that took the Mandalorian story in general. Obviously, we're also getting Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. The best way to sum up Mandalorian Season 3 is the fact that not even Pedro Pascal even cared enough, and it felt like bro was never even on set. This shit was ass. But to talk about the pros of Mandalorian, Season 1 is one of the best series of Star Wars content that we've gotten. I think Season 1 is truly a great story about a bounty hunter that balances becoming a father-like figure, and I don't think The Mandalorian Season 3 is good at all, and it ruins some amazing seasons of television that came before it. And then we have Solo, a Star Wars story. This was going to go at the top of good. I don't want to fill up the great and best of the best, because I know that the final parts of this tier list will kind of stack up at the top, but I think Solo is pretty underrated. Alden Ehrenreich is one of the most underrated actors working in Hollywood right now, in my opinion. He is absolutely phenomenal. He's in Fair Play and Oppenheimer as well, which obviously check both of those out, but he's great in Solo as well. This is how you do a great prequel story set in the same universe with the character that we already have a lot of knowledge about. I think overall this works really, really well. Love this movie. But then we get to Star Wars The Last Jedi. This is going in best of the best and might just stay at the top of this tier, and this is probably my hottest take of the entire video. I fucking love this movie. I don't know how people don't like this movie, and maybe it's because I watched The Force Awakens and then The Last Jedi, and then I went back and watched all of the Star Wars movies for the first time. Maybe it's because I didn't have that pre-existing knowledge, and I understand diehard fans did not like this movie, or Rise of Skywalker, whatever the hell the last movie's called. I understand people don't like the story, but for me, I love it. It's so heartfelt. It has so many great themes and messages, and dare I say, this is the most thematically rich Star Wars film we've ever gotten. That's more than just good versus evil, light versus dark. which is what every single one of these movies really dilutes down to. This movie truly has a different core to it, which I love. And then we get to Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. This one is going to go in great. I firstly love the visuals of this film. So jealous that I never got to see it on an IMAX theater. Has one of my favorite cinematographers of all time's name attached to it as well. I think the acting all around is pretty damn great as well. My only thing is the story pacing isn't amazing, but pretty much everything else makes up for it. I just can't get over how visually beautiful this movie is, and I also think, again, it fits a nice little piece into the Star Wars story that we already know, and this overall big lore that's happening and that we already know about. And this also obviously introduces us to Andor, who we'll talk about later in this video. And then we have The Force Awakens. This one is going to go in best of the best as well, just underneath The Last Jedi though. The Force Awakens was my first ever Star Wars movie I saw in theaters. Actually, it's my first Star Wars movie in general. I just went because it was playing and I was interested in it. And I watched the trailer after and I was like, damn, if I knew what any of this meant, I'd probably be even more hype. But I love this movie for what it is. It again introduces Kylo Ren as an amazing villain. I think Rey's storyline is so interesting until they fucking ruin it in the final movie. Finn deserved way better as a character. I think he had such great potential for a character arc that would be amazing that started in this movie. And then Han Solo. I mean, I didn't even know about the lore and all that stuff attached to Han Solo with Luke and Leia and everything. I wasn't really fully minded to all of that kind of stuff, and I still felt so emotionally connected to him because of his storyline with Kylo Ren. So I love this movie, and I just, again, I don't get the hate, man. And this is where my hot takes start raining in. People, you guys are not going to like this one. Revenge of the Sith. This is a top of good. This is a good movie. This is a good movie. It's nothing more than that to me, though. The final act is probably the best 20 to 30 minutes of Star Wars content we've ever had, and I can admit that happily with a smile on my face. But the first two acts of this movie are just good. They're just good. They're not great. They're not meh. They're not bad. It's just a good movie overall. The final act is great. It might be best of the best. But when you look at an overall package, you can't tell me that the first two movies and the sequels not only look better, but they also have better performances all around. The sets are way more interesting. It's more big and more grand. And just overall, thematically, it also is just way more rich. I feel like the first two acts of Revenge of the Sith have no thematic depth at all until you get to the final act, of course. But like, it's so surface level to me for 90% of the runtime. And then we have episode 2. This one is going to go in actually, this is going to go in bad. This is going to go in top of bad. And then I'll just get episode 1 as well done. Episode 1, I'm going to go just under The Mandalorian. I recently rewatched episode 1 when I watched movies for 24 hours straight. And it was a great experience to watch this in theaters, but it didn't really change my outlook on the movie. I still think it's interesting, and I think it does some cool things. Darth Maul is a fine villain, but when your villain has 5 minutes of screen time, I don't really know what to tell you. Qui-Gon Jinn is a really, really cool Jedi Master, though. He's one of my favorites. Honestly, in my opinion, one of the most underrated. I don't really have many thoughts on episode 2. I haven't seen it since I originally watched all the Star Wars movies like a year and a half, 2 years ago, but I just don't really like it. The final act is atrocious. But I don't want to shit on it for any longer because we're about to get to one of the greatest trilogies in cinema history. We'll start with Return of the Jedi. This one is going to go at the top of great. This is borderline best of the best. Like, I absolutely love this film. And to say it's the worst of the original trilogy is like doing it a disservice because yes, it's the worst, but this is an all-timer trilogy. Like, all of these movies are 9 out of 10s or higher. These are awesome. And I love the way that Return of the Jedi just caps off this story. And then we get to The Empire Strikes Back. And this one is going to go at the top of best of the best. I do flip back and forth between Empire Strikes Back and The Last Jedi, but I guess a little story time. I watched Empire Strikes Back for the first time like a year and a half, 2 years ago. Right after I watched it, I ordered a poster for it, which is right across from me right now. And then like 5 minutes later, I rewatched the movie again. I love this movie so much. I was just surprised by how much I fell in love with this film. I think Han and Leia's story is so beautiful. I think overall, this is just the perfect villainy enough in a movie, but also enough character work and enough world building. This movie is just a masterclass in all areas, and it looks amazing. And then we have the original Star Wars. This one's going to go at the top of great. I think the sequels and the first two are just a little bit better for me because I don't have nostalgia for Star Wars, and I think the first Star Wars movie is just a little bit too simple. It's not to say this movie's bad by any means. Absolutely love this film, but just in comparison to the other projects, I think it is a little bit more lackluster, and also the character work is just better in the sequel. And then we get to Andor. This is best of the best. Honestly, it might be the best Star Wars project of all time. I mean, I haven't watched this show since it originally released, but damn, is this a good series. Andy Serkis, Stellan Skarsgård, Diego Luna, Adria Arjona. Like, this is a stacked series, not only in the cast. Obviously, the performances are amazing. Visually, this is one of the best Star Wars projects in general. Story-wise, the way that they do these 3-episode arcs is something that every other Star Wars project and just Disney Plus series, HBO series, Warner, whatever it is, 3-episode arcs are perfect, especially when you're trying to tell a story as grand and as personal as well as Andor is. I need season 2 injected in my veins, and I don't know when it's coming out, but I need it. Like, I want it like tomorrow. Like, I need that shit so bad. Andor is one of those shows that you finish and you cannot believe it's done, and then you're like, oh shit, we're getting a season 2, and then they're like, it's coming in 5 years. I'm like, bro, I love this show. I love everything about it. It's, in my opinion, probably the best thing that Star Wars has ever made. It's probably a hot take, but man, this is a good ass show. And Diego Luna puts on one of the best performances in Star Wars history as well, in my opinion. But to wrap it up, we have the newly released Acolyte. This one is going to go in the middle of meh. I think it's just under The Mandalorian because season 1 of The Mandalorian is just way too damn good. But the reason I put it above Obi Wan Kenobi is because I didn't really have that much expectation going into the Acolyte. And I think overall, you know, it does give us a fine story. It explores a decent little corner of the Star Wars universe. The performances themselves aren't that bad. I think episode by episode, it kind of lacks in that there's not something that's like, damn, I want to see the next episode right away, other than like 1 to 2 episode transitions that they are literally staying in the same exact moment. So you can't help but be like, yeah, what's going to happen next? Visually, the show is pretty lackluster, just like The Mandalorian season 3, Obi Wan Kenobi, The Book of Boba Fett. But I don't think The Acolyte was atrocious. I don't think it was great or good. I just think it's meh. It's all right. It's not harmful, but it's just another disappointing Star Wars Disney Plus TV show, and there's nothing much to it. But guys, that wraps up my ranking for all the Star Wars projects. Again, let me know your ranking in the comments down below. I expect very different rankings from mine, so I'm excited to see everyone's thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.